Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Colmatt here, and today we're going to be answering the question, which ship weapon is the best? And we will be going through and showing off the base weapons as well as maxed out S-Class upgrades. Spoiler alert, the S-Class upgrades, really, you can choose any weapon once we get there, but I will still be showing off those damage numbers anyways. And starting us off first on the list, we have the Photon Cannon, so we're going to go ahead and start shooting this Sentinel. So you can see we're doing pretty consistent damage on the shield. And let's see if we can hit that hull before he shields back up. So the hull damage is about double what you get with the shield damage. So we were getting about 479 on the shielded shots and 989 on the hull. Now that we have the damage numbers, I would say that the Photon Cannon is a decent weapon for anyone wanting to use it. One being, it's going to be the primary weapon installed on any ship you buy anyways, so you don't have to do anything to install it. And it's pretty decent damage. It's definitely not the best, but it's not horrible. Of course, you've seen in the video, I'll go ahead and show it off again. The fire rate's pretty good, and it doesn't take that long to overheat. However, with upgrades, you can definitely get that time down quite a bit. The next weapon that we'll be testing out is the Cyclotron Ballista. So we're going to go ahead and start firing this off. Now, this weapon does have a very fast overheat. However, you can see one of the main benefits is you actually shut down the enemy's engine, so they move a lot slower. And now, you do considerable damage to the shield, whereas the hull damage you can see is very, very low. So we're getting about 2,000 on the shield and only about 400 on the hull. So pretty decent weapon, but I wouldn't say it's the best. Again, not without upgrades, these weapons aren't going to be that great to begin with, but I would definitely go with the Photon Cannon over the Cyclotron Ballista. Moving on to the next weapon, we have the rocket launcher. Now this weapon I would say is best suited as a secondary weapon. You definitely don't want to use this as your main weapon, because as you can see, we do very little damage to the shield. Now the hull damage is actually very considerable. You can nearly one-shot these guys. By the time it takes us to recharge from overheating, the shield, at least on these Sentinels, is fully charged. Now the Sentinels are the hardest enemies to kill as far as space combat goes, so definitely keep that in mind as well. Overall, pretty good weapon. I would say use it again as a secondary. Run it with the Cyclotron Ballista, run down the shields with that, and then switch over to the rocket launcher to finish off. The next weapon on the list is going to be the Phase Beam. The Phase Beam fires a consistent shot rather than your burst fire. You can see it overheats pretty fast as well. Again, on Sentinels it's not going to be that great. On regular targets it's not going to be this bad. Now that we've gotten the shield down, you can see the damage is consistent on the hull. So very good weapon to use, especially with those upgrades. Again, I'll be covering the upgrades and what they do here shortly, but the Phase Beam gains some really great functionality once you add upgrades to it. Again, not a bad weapon to begin with, but there are still better weapons. Up next, we have the Infernap Accelerator. This is basically a Gatling gun for your ship, so you can see we're doing pretty good damage here. It does overheat very fast, so this one basically fires the same as the Photon Cannon, just a lot faster. So if you definitely like the Photon Cannon but you don't like how slow it shoots, give the Infernap a try. And lastly, we have the Positron Ejector. This is the shotgun for your ship, so we can go ahead and show off those damage number there. You can see very high damage, however it does overheat super fast. So now that we have those shields down, let's go ahead and start shooting the hull. You can see the damage stays consistent across the shield as well as the hull. So took them out no time at all. This was actually the only one I was able to take out right away. So you can see very good weapon. And before we move on to the upgraded weapons, I do want to go ahead and show off these damage numbers. So for the Photon Cannon, it is a flat 2,342. That's across both the shield and the hull. The Cyclotron Ballista, we have 4,109 on the shield and only 513 on the actual hull. The Phase Beam, again, it's going to be a consistent damage of 1,870. Moving on to the Positron Ejector, we have 645 DPS on the shield and 1,955 upon the hull. For the Infernap Accelerator, we have 3,108 on the hull and only 2,072 on the shield. I say that is only, even though that is higher than most of these weapons. Moving on to the rocket launcher, we have 2,923 damage to the hull and a measly 389 on the shield. Again, I would consider most of these weapons are going to be considered primary weapons. However, I would consider the rocket launcher a secondary weapon. It's not really something you can use on its own to take out targets. Now, after upgrading all the weapons, we're going to go ahead and take a quick look again at the damage. So for the Photon Cannon, we are now up to 8,720. we are up to 3,559 on hull damage for the Cyclotron Ballista and 28,478 on the shield. The phase beam, we have 7,926. Again, that's across the shield and the hull. For the Positron Ejector, we have 12,495 on the hull and 4,123 on the shield. The Infernap Accelerator, we have 41,751 damage on the hull and 27,834 upon the shield. And last but not least, the rocket launcher, we are now up to 3,099 on the hull and 413 on the shield. And this is with 3 S-Class upgrades in the general and 3 in the technology. And for the rocket launcher, we only have 1 upgrade, and it is a B class that allows you to get extra heat recovery. So that's really all you're going to get with the rocket launcher. Again, it only takes up 2 slots, so use it as a secondary weapon, although with maxed out S-Class weapons, you're probably not going to need it. Now that we have the Sentinels inbound, let's go ahead and just start firing, and you can see this is taking him out way faster. Again, on that hull, the damage isn't that great, but you can still take him out within no time at all. And also, if you want to go ahead and take a look at the thermal load, you can see it goes through way slower. If you remember before, it only took about 5 to 10 seconds to max that out. Now it'll probably take a solid 30 seconds of firing in order to max that out. So, very great weapon. I really love the Photon Cannon. It's probably my second favorite weapon. And now cycling back to the Cyclotron Ballista, you can see the damage to the shield is insanely fast. That went down almost immediately, and we still have that stun effect from before, so that's really nice. Overall, for the Cyclotron Ballista, I would say it's a very great weapon. I would use it as a secondary weapon if you do not have it maxed out, to go ahead and take down those shields fast and then go ahead and disable the engine as well. So, very great weapon, but there are still definitely better weapons. And for the next weapon on the list, we'll be moving on to the phase beam. Now, the phase beam is special in the fact that it gets an upgrade through the anomaly that really can't be overstated by any of the other weapons, and that is that you get your shield recharged upon impact. So when you're taking down the enemy shields, it will recharge your shields. Now, unfortunately, the damage dealt to the hull does not recharge your shield. It's only shield to shield damage. So that's unfortunate, but it makes sense the reason why they would do that. But just keep that in mind, it only does shield to shield damage. But anyways, with damage for the phase beam, you can see we're taking down the shields insanely fast, and we've got the damage back from our shields. Now, one thing that I found works really well with this weapon is kind of, as you can see there, you want to move around and have that lock on, lock off. I've noticed that it seems to do better damage if you're locking and unlocking, whereas if you do a consistent fire on the target. So again, do that at your own risk, test it out. For me, it seems like that's faster, but it may seem faster to you doing it a different method. Anyways, phase beam, really great weapon. There are still better weapons though. As for the Positron Ejector, the other upgrade that we added through the anomaly gives us better accuracy, 20% better to be exact, and 25% extra range. Now, if you were curious, for the Cyclotron Ballista and the Photon Cannon, since I didn't mention it, it is 11% heat dispersion for the Cyclotron Ballista and 21% heat dispersion for the Photon Cannon. So that's mainly why I didn't cover those to begin with. Now onto the Positron Ejector. As you can see, the Sentinels are just now flying in, so we're going to go ahead and just start shooting. Now, this is going to work better at closer range, so you can see those shields are gone almost immediately, and his hull is gone completely. So, very great weapon. This is definitely one of the best. It's down to the last two, which is going to be the Infernap and the Positron Ejector, and you will see in a second how well the Infernap does as well. Really, it's going to be personal preference on these last two. I would say you can go with either of these weapons and you'll have a completely fine time. Again, maxed out weapons, you're going to be good no matter what you go with, but if you want to deal with your targets as fast as possible, definitely go with the Positron Ejector or the Infernap Accelerator. Speaking of the Infernap Accelerator though, we will now be showing off the damage and how fast this thing shoots off. As you can see, these bullets fly out of this thing immediately, and you have a crazy stream, so you can see how fast that was. Now, I do personally think the Positron Ejector does still do more damage quicker. However, you cannot beat how fun this weapon is to use. I mean, just look at how fast those bullets are coming out of there. Even the sound's glitching out, so definitely a really great weapon, and for me, it's the most fun to use, and I definitely think it's the best weapon in the game. You definitely can get that damage a little bit higher. Again, these were not min-maxed and these were not X-Class. So go out there, max yourself out some X-Class and S-Class upgrades. See if you can get that damage a little bit higher. Now, I did use a fighter in this video which excels in damage dealt, so definitely if you want to be a pirate, make sure you use your fighters. They're really going to help out with those damage numbers. But let me know down in the comments, what is your favorite ship weapon to use and why? Anyways guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked the video, definitely consider leaving a like. If you like the content on the channel, definitely consider subscribing. It really helps me out. Anyways guys, this has been Colmatt. Peace out.